Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to round 3 of the ChampCar iRacing series for 2021. Our third round and third new car this season. It is the Street Stock. It could be more different than the Volkswagen Jetta that we raced last round. Volkswagen Jetta diesel, front wheel drive, very similar to off the showroom floor, and with a 6-speed semi-automatic gearbox. But this, the Street Stock vehicle, bred and designed for oval racing, for short track racing, a old school V8, old school tires, 4 on the floor shifter. You will find no such things as ABS or traction control in this car. I'll tell you what, it's a very different fuel consumption than that Volkswagen Jetta as well. And this is what we love about this series, is that it requires a driver to be flexible in all the different styles and performances of cars that you might find in the real-world ChampCar Endurance series. And speaking of, all of our drivers are hopefully racing their way towards one of the 2 prizes on offer across this year-long championship. Big prize number 1 for our points winner at the end of the year. They are going to get free entry into a ChampCar Endurance Series race, a real-world, real wheel-to-wheel endurance race of their choice. If they're an existing car owner and member with the series, then they're going to get that on their account to pick and choose what event they'd like. If they're a sim racer with no wheel-to-wheel experience, then ChampCar are going to pair them with an existing team to get them out on track and show a path that's been trodden before, that you can go from sim racing to real world racing, and a lot of the skill transfers. And it's a great way to stay practiced, stay sharp. But that other championship, that other prize that we are giving away is of equal value. The same prize, up to $1,500 of ChampCar credit value, to a randomly drawn, randomly raffled driver who completes at least 12 races of this season. So everyone showing up racing week to week, they don't have to be the best sim racer. They just need to show up, race clean, get to the finish, and their name goes into the hat to potentially win a very valuable prize to help them get out on the racetrack with the ChampCar Endurance Series in 2022. So with all that said about the championship, let's narrow our focus down onto this race tonight. Daytona road course, most famous for the 24-hour race, the Rolex. That's not the only race that races on the road course here. In recent times, NASCAR stock car racing, but also ChampCar, a long history of staging our endurance races at this great track. Everyone loves it. It's Daytona. It's a name famous around the world. Even to people in my part of the world who've only ever known it as a name on an arcade game console, but they love it. So for today's coverage here on HJBC, I'm David Haynes. I've got Michael Derby on the production with the cameras and the graphics and everything that makes it possible for you to tune in around the world. And alongside me, as always, once again, Devin Peters. Devin, we're in qualifying right now. 8 minutes to go before we go racing for a 1-hour race. What are you expecting?
I think we're actually watching a really critical lap right now because there's cloud cover overhead, and the fastest laps that we've seen on track today have been when one of those clouds gets in front of the sun and drops the temperature on the track. So I'm kind of keeping my eyes peeled to see if anyone's on a real quick one right now.
Devin, if we're talking weather, we'll put you in a nice suit in front of a green screen. What is the weather today in Daytona, in Sim? Because I could tell our viewers in Celsius, but I'm not sure that's what half of them want to hear.
Well, luckily, up in Canada, we also use... 70 degrees Fahrenheit outside, mostly cloudy. Track temperatures around 94 degrees Fahrenheit, and with a little wind, but not nearly enough to upset these big fat street stocks as they thunder down into turn number 1.
bathtubs on wheel with a V8 they are. Not particularly sophisticated suspension, not particularly sophisticated differential. And then, of course, those bias ply tires drive away all their own. They heat up quite easily, as we can see plenty of drivers finding that the braking is very tough in these cars as well. And the fuel consumption is significant, as with all of the races, with all of the cars across this year. We are going to see a pit stop for fuel, but different to what we saw with the Jetta last round at VIR South. Tires is a bigger talking point in this car as fuel is, because with how heavy they are, with how difficult the brakes are, with how much horsepower they've got, they really can chew through that bias ply rubber a little quicker than the other two types of car that we race, being the NC Miata and that Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah, and with the way these cars are handling right now in the service, they seem to like being slid to go fast. And so you got to wonder how these drivers are going to balance, trying to run away from the field with trying to, manage the tire usage over a full hour of racing today.
And as we talk about the different cars, some of the great tracks that ChampCar Endurance Series visits and ChampCar iRacing Series visits, I wonder if we've still got that graphic of our 16 rounds for the year, mostly mirroring as best we can with what iRacing has for the ChampCar Endurance Series. The first three we've had very much mirroring the real world, with Road Atlanta and then VIR South, and now here at Daytona. Across summer, we're going to take a couple liberties, but there it is up on screen. Daytona now, Road America next, and then a lot of very, very famous tracks coming up in the season. Watkins Glen, Circuit of the Americas. We still get to go to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park on the sim. And then, of course, plenty of action at VIR. Mid-Ohio, that's going to be an exciting one later in the year, Devin.
Yeah, absolutely. Borders closed, but can't keep you out of the sim, right? But yeah, Mid-Ohio should be a good time. And, you and I both, of course, have a soft spot in our hearts for VIR, home of the huge-ass race car in real life.
I've got a pretty big soft spot for Indianapolis.
I'll give you that.
Personally. But of course, on the schedule there, you can see the different cars we're going to be racing. We're trying to make them suit the characteristics of the track here at Daytona. So fast on the banking, very much a horsepower track. So we've brought the most powerful car in the street stock. Some of the more medium speed, more flowing tracks, we're going to have that Miata again, and then some of the slower ones for the Volkswagen Jetta, because it's not really enjoyable to drive at wide open throttle. It doesn't rev, it makes no noise, it doesn't go that quickly in a straight line either. And of course we end at Sebring. A lot of eyes on Sebring in the last week or so. Very, very exciting track. Again, huge amounts of history at some of these tracks. Winning at Daytona means a lot. Winning at Sebring means an incredible amount as well. Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Circuit of the Americas, all places you want to win, no matter the car, no matter the machinery.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to this street stock race. To be honest, I gotta say, I think that this might be the car with the highest skill ceiling of all the cars that we race in this series, because there really is so much finesse involved in bringing this thing around a big track and getting it slowed down on a big track like this one. I mean, this thing's coming in at 150 miles an hour into turn number one, no downforce, barely any brakes, and leaf springs holding the rear tires attached to the frame, right? So it's really something special, and I think something really neat that we get to do here in the ChampCar iRacing Series.
Absolutely right. Leaf springs, keeping those bias ply tires attached to the pavement, and the 1970s chassis. Is there a carburetor in these things? I've seen people blow the hood off before. It's a carbureted V8?
We'll have to keep our eyes peeled, but I'm willing to bet it is. They should make a racing series with these things in real life, honestly. Like just old chassis, that'd be a good time.
Or Superstar Racing Experience, SRX, should take their cars to some short road courses or something. Imagine them at Mid-Ohio.
Oh, that'd be a beautiful, beautiful sight.
Well, this 1 hour qualifying session is very rapidly coming towards a close, and it is make or break time because the track temperature is coming down. That helps the lap times, and it's break for Alex Albert and Justin Hall as they blow through the bus stop. Again, another big braking zone as you come from the speeds on the banking to try to negotiate a tricky section of the track in a car with questionable tires, questionable suspension, questionable brakes, etc., etc. But as the track cools down, the lap times should be getting a little quicker. You can see the ticker across the top of the screen. Defending champ Alex Albert on the pole, but just a 10th ahead of Jeff Tyler, and then Mark McCormick, Bradley Daly, and Ian Giebler. So quite a few names that have really come through to put on a good performance this season that maybe we didn't see so much of last season. So have McCormick, Daly, Giebler, and others very much in the top 5, challenging the drivers that we've maybe had since day one in this championship. It's very reassuring to see that once again we've got a race where a dozen people could win it.
Well, yeah, and Alex Albert, returning champion, not leading the championship. Bradley Daly currently qualified 4th. He's second place overall in the championship. Ian Giebler currently qualified 5th. Well, he's tied for second, both of them with 69 points. And then
nice.
Christopher Flamian, regular in the series, 10th overall qualifying. Simon Foweather, another name to watch out for. And Mark McCormick, 3rd place. Well, he has already got a race win earlier this season. So, really a competitive grid at the front end, and it's really nice to see everyone showing up. Gotta say, though, I think my favorite is the 69 car of Clinton Ford. I heard that these guys in real life are just finishing up the build on their car, hoping to bring it to Daytona. So it's really nice to see that they're far enough ahead of schedule that he's got enough time to, join us for a race today.
Yeah, dude, looking like we got our top 10 covered by about a second, which is a nice thing to be able to say, but when you see that all the lap times are longer than 2 minutes, percentage-wise, that's even closer. Mm-hmm. If you look at everyone that's covered by about 2% from the leader, that's 2.4 seconds. So you'd be looking all the way down to about 25th place for everyone who's within 102% of the pole sitter. So that is good signs. And of course, 1 lap pace in this car is very different to race pace for an hour when you think about brakes wearing out, the tires wearing out, sometimes considerably seconds a lap of tire wear between lap 1 and lap 10, for example.
Yeah, and there's there's so much tire smoke on the track. You just got to know that these guys are using those tires up when they're trying to push for that little bit of extra lap time. I'm actually watching Jeff Tyler's car here, the number 25, as he comes to the line. This looks like a good lap based on the toe he got coming down the back straight. Ooh, not quite enough to improve, though. And he stuffs it in the fence real well.
Yeah, drafting qualifying was, I think, a good thing to have, but apparently not entirely critical for all of those bits like the bus stop and the infield. You want to make sure you get a clean run, get to use all of the track, because anything that makes you tighten your entry, tighten your exit in this car, it doesn't react well to it all. It needs all the road. We think, though, that is going to be everyone done for qualifying, and then we look very quickly towards our 1 hour race with a pit stop because they're going to need to top off the tanks of fuel. So on pole, Alex Albert sharing the front row with Jeff Tyler. Row 2 is last race's winner, Mark McCormick, sharing it with Bradley Daly. Then Ian Giebler and Justin Hall, Andrew Archer and Alex Crawford, Simon Foweather and Chris Flamian, two good old boys from down south there in row 5. Both of them are in Alabama, I think. Anyway, and then we got Knisley, Tim Wire, Gene Sirota, Clinton Ford, who you were talking about, Kyle Guillory, Charles Kowalczyk, Andrew Kosick, Troy Isidore, Daniel Reeves, and Keith Carlson is 20th place, about the top half of the grid.
Looking a little deeper down the field, we've still got some competitors back there. Sean Sputra and David Palermo, 21st and 22nd. Scott Grinnell and Jay Sofianek. I've heard some rumors that maybe David Palermo and Jay have set up their own points championship for members of their team. Aaron Thorpe and Greg Platt, 25th and 26th. Jared Cubitt, 27th. Kevin Robinson, 28th. Tyler Robinson, 29th. Looks like those two might have some family relations there. Ben Moody in 30th, Greg Vandervert in 31st, Mark Kruger 32nd, Tim Trahan 33rd, Ed Emmett 34th, 35th, Neil Hancock, Nicholas Love 36th, Cody Lammy 37th, Donovan Bort 38th, 39th, Corey Hunter, Danny Robinson in 40th, 41st is Rob Craig, 42nd, Brian Gersmer 43rd, Brian Edwards, and giving us a bigger field than a classic NASCAR race. 44th is Jonathan Patterson, and we'll see if Shane Cameron makes it in time for the grid. He did not set a qualifying lap.
45 cars, good number. Almost everyone with a qualifying lap. That bodes very well to give us plenty of action and excitement for a 60-minute race. What's going to be key here, but like any endurance race, isn't just a sprint through the first lap, but to be kind to the tires, pit at a time that isn't going to cost you too much time. We might see some pit early, we might see some pit a bit later, but minimizing that time on the pit lane, minimizing the time lost in traffic are all going to be just as critical as, you know, belting in quick flying laps like we just saw in qualifying. This car's very thirsty. It's got a big tank, which means it's going to need to take on board a lot of fuel at the pit stop. That could be key to the race, as well as all of our grid form up behind the pace car. And the number 19 has decided the bus stop doesn't apply on the pace lap. Good for them. But everyone else is going to form up, get ready to get rolling on the famous banking of Daytona.
Yeah, I'm really not sure why Crawford decided to skip the bus stop, but hopefully he doesn't do it on a flying lap. That'll get you.
He's a loose cannon who plays by his own rules, it seems.
Sounds about right.
All looking good at the front of the field, though, leaving just a little bit of a gap to that pace car. Alex Albert has the inside. Jeff Tyler on his outside, just staggered slightly behind. He's going to look for when that green flag drops and when Alex Albert puts his foot to the floor to get us racing for round 3 of the ChampCar iRacing series here at Daytona International Speedway. The pace car is in. Alex Albert waits, and now he floors it. Boogity, boogity, boogity. We are racing at Daytona. It's a good jump from your pole sitter as they mainly stay 2x2 all the way behind into turn 1. Tires can be cold on this car. They do need to be careful on lap 1 in these bathtubs.
So far, the only thing I've seen go flying, though, is a couple cones, and they're proceeding through turn number 1 pretty cleanly other than that.
Definitely all clean in the top 10 with 45 runners. It's hard to say it's clean for everyone.
Big wreck in the middle of the field there. That was 23 and the 44 of Ed Emmett. I see the 56 gone around. A couple cars without that front fascia. Luckily, it looks like most of the field was able to get through. The 546 caught up in that as well. Ooh. Well, not how you want to end the first lap, certainly, but luckily there is a full hour here, so these guys will have the chance to make some of that time up.
Yeah, 3 or so cars involved there. Not a great start, but the way these cars work is they really can take a beating and a banging. Going nose into the wall at 20 miles an hour probably isn't going to stop them like it would with showroom stock Jetta or with the Miata. So at the lead, bit of a top 4 breakaway. Alex Albert leading, Jeff Tyler, Mark McCormick and Bradley Daly. Those four sort of leaving Ian Giebler in their wake a little bit at the moment, which might be difficult to do because the slipstream can be strong in the racing conditions here.
I just got to give a little shout out here to Daniel Reeves. Coming onto the NASCAR 1 and 2 there, he wrecked in a spot that I don't think I've ever seen anyone wreck. And I've done like 3 or 4 24-hour events here. Managed to get tagged by another car and turned into one of the service roads before making very gentle contact with the road, backing it up and proceeding just fine, albeit minus a few seconds.
One lap in the books at Daytona. Top 7 still racing the order that they qualified, but behind a couple more movers. Simon Foweather took a spot off Alex Crawford. Clinton Ford is up 2. Simon Foweather's up 2 now as well.
Man, look at that cloud of smoke, though, as they head through the first horseshoe. These cars really love to lock up that inside tire when it gets unloaded.
Yeah, a lot of roll in the suspension and in the body, and that helps that inside front tire to lock very, very easily. And they're going to do it again in the other horseshoe. A lot of cars doing it. They are really leaving smoke signals in the infield.
Absolutely. But you can really tell, especially with the low tire pressures, these cars do. They move around a lot underneath you. You know, it's all the stuff the race fans been crying for a long time. You know, lots of power, no downforce, bad old tires, all the stuff that made racing fun, right?
Wait, is this the NASCAR Next Gen?
You heard it here, folks. Launched live.
Well, top 2 are getting away as they leave Mark McCormick behind a little bit. And then a little bit further back there, that's where so much of the action has been in the top 10. They were all so close behind Giebler, Justin Hall, Simon Foweather, etc. there.
Mm-hmm. And an element that'll become more important as we get going a little further into this race is finding a drafting buddy, and notably Alex Albert and Jeff Tyler, who are both very proficient in this car at the front of the field, are running nose to tail. Jeff Tyler in the preferred spot, though, he's probably running 70-80% throttle all the way through this banking, and given the way this car seems to be filled through some sort of eyedropper that they put into the tank, it is definitely preferable to save as much as you can, and can give you a really big advantage if you manage to get enough held back.
Bit of a moment for Ian Giebler in turn 1. He's lost a handful of spots there, and now he's going to have to go door to door with Alex Crawford. Not something you want to do. I think he's just about gathered himself up, got himself back in line here. But what has Giebler done? Fallen from 5th to about 8th?
Yeah, we've got another wreck. Yeah, 161. That's Charles Kowalczyk. He spun it around on the exit of the first horseshoe, and he's just looking for a gap. He's stuck there after making contact with Chris Famian, maybe, and a couple other cars. He's managed to get himself whipped around, though, but yeah, that was unfortunate. The 5, the 111.
He's managed to get whipped too far around. He's still facing the wrong way, and one of those other cars is Kyle Guillory in the 111, who appears to have quite a bit of damage. I said it was difficult to do, but it's still possible with a big enough hit.
Yeah, it's got to feel weird switching from his 240SX to the big street stock here, but there wasn't much he could do to get out of the way of that one. Once you light up the rear tires on this thing, it just goes away.
And once they're spending a lot of torque from this motor, not a lot to let you catch the slide. And while all that happens, the lead has shrunk a little bit because McCormick is back in the draft of the top 2, dragging Bradley Daly along with them. And Justin Hall is a bit of a maverick. He's following the high line on the banking and then maybe using it to swoop down late. I don't know what's going on for the Floridian in 5th.
Yeah, there's a few right ways around this track, but I think for the most part, you want to be stuck to the yellow line unless your drafting partner's doing something a little weird. Fast lap from Mark McCormick last time by a 2:04. That's going to take some time with the guys in front, and sure enough, he's already catching up to their rear bumper.
Would have been good enough to put him on pole as a qualifying lap.
And you know what? Maybe I'm giving credit where credit isn't due here, but I know that Alex Albert is a guy who likes to race out of his mirrors and play mental games a little bit. I got to wonder if he's thinking, hey, if I can get Jeff Tyler and Mark McCormick mixed up with each other, maybe I can break away a little bit and not give Jeff so much of an advantage. Who knows?
Well, he might be driving in his mirrors, but he's also driving looking out the side windows because he is sideways through turn 1, sideways through the first horseshoe, sideways through the second horseshoe. He's giving a drift class again, coming back up onto the banking. Yeah, I'm not sure quite what's going on there, but it has backed up Tyler towards McCormick. Bradley Daly hasn't quite followed with, I think he's 1.1 seconds off the back of third, and I don't know if that's really enough to get a good tow from back there.
I did notice that in the qualifying, Alex was really sliding it all over the place. And, you know, you hear the stories. I'm trying to remember the name of that old, I want to say it was like a Japanese driver or something like that sort of started the drifting craze, right, by driving these old tires by sliding them sideways, right? I gotta wonder if there's maybe a little bit of that going on in the iRacing sim, or maybe just a little bit of broken physics, because either way, Alex seems to be making that drifting style work.
I mean, the Bi-Sply tires have a different sort of slip angle, a different grip than a radial tire, obviously. So I'm not going to say it's slow, but the longevity of the tires, the heat build up in the tires, he's leaving 11s through the middle of turn 1 there, and his lead is nothing to write home about.
I will give you that. I'm actually riding along with Alex Crawford after that little bit of early drama for him. He's now caught right up behind Justin Hall and Simon Foweather, and I think all three of these guys are looking to to get themselves ahead of the other guys. A really tight battle in here, and of course with the smoke, it looks like they're about to smack into the back of each other every time they go into a corner. Foweather's been really making some ground though. He's, I think, what did I say? Yeah, 5th place overall in the points right now, and he'd really like to have a good finish to kind of solidify his position in the championship so far. Up 5 spots by my count.
Up 4 by mine, but he has been moving steadily forward. Whatever he's kind of captain of this ship all the way from 5th through to 9th, where Giebler and Andrew Archer have been going backwards. Foweather has been moving forward. And he's got Justin Hall for company there as they'll come towards the bus stop. Did he get a little tap on the way into the braking there from behind? Certainly not the line I would have taken for the first apex. Tidy through all of the rest. Alex Crawford extends the limits a little bit and too far. That's going to be one of the first slowdowns we've seen. Penalty for cutting the course there.
Mm-hmm. And that's how iRacing keeps you honest, right? You might not lose a tire by going off the track like you might in real life, but you'll certainly get a penalty. Speaking of people that have made up a lot of ground, I mentioned Shane Cameron just barely sneaking in under the wire, making it in. No qualifying, but familiar enough with this car that he's managed to drive himself up 22 spots. I think 23 actually, as he runs 24th on the track, having started, not 24th on the track, 23rd on the track, as he started 45th overall, and is using his experience and just picking them off one by one.
And with all respect to Shane Cameron, this car's built a little bit like he is.
I'm going to clip that and send it to him.
Yeah, go on. Why not? Ripping battle, though, with Foweather, who went side by side into turn 1. He's gone and lost that position back to Justin Hall. And Giebler wanted to get his nose involved for a minute there as well, as smoke him if you got him. Maybe they need to slightly reprogram the smoke effects for the slip angle on this car, because it's well, you ever had tire smoke in your eyes from someone locking up in front of you or something? If you were in the stands with that much smoke, eventually you'd get sick of it.
Yeah, yeah. It's feeling like a little bit like a Formula Drift event out at the front, but it seems to be the quick way to drive the car, right?
Yeah. Fastest lap of the race belongs to Mark McCormick, who's moved up into second on this lap. So he's gone and picked off Jeff Tyler. That's interesting to see. McCormick up one spot, right in behind Alex Albert with Jeff Tyler there. And as this has been going on, they have started to drop Bradley Daly a little bit. He was doing really well hanging with the top four, hanging with Mark McCormick, but now he's in this sort of no man's land between the top three and that great battle with Hall and Fower that we've been talking about.
Yeah, well, and it kind of looked to me like Jeff just lifted out of it. You know, he went high, gave McCormick the inside line. The opposite of what Alex is doing here is he holds the inside and keeps Mark McCormick outside. Looks like Mark's getting it stopped a little better than Alex, though. Is he going to get the better run off? Alex is compromised, runs over the curb. McCormick's got alongside him now. He's taking the outside into the first horseshoe and taking the spot as Alex runs a little bit wide, puts one tire on the grass. Nice move from there. And McCormick, from one win to another lead here early into this race. This is what he wanted to see, though. You got to imagine.
Yeah, it's just good drive off the corners here for McCormick. Maybe on that narrow entry, Alex might have, pinched the brake a little bit, gone in a little bit hot, and then just didn't get the drive off that McCormick was obviously able to get. Just 4 gears in these cars, and probably you're mainly just using third or fourth. Second in the hairpins, maybe. Definitely not first gear in racing conditions. So it's a bit simpler that way. But, big torquey engine, there's revs, power down low in the revs.
Speaking of people making overtakes, Simon Foweather has just given a spot back to Justin Hall after kind of blowing the churn onto the banking. Ran a little bit wide on the exit to 1-2, but he's pushing Justin now as they head down the short chute.
He's got to be careful how hard he bumps that, because it got a bit sideways. Giebler trying to stick his nose down. Foweather sideways and into the barrier. That's no good at all.
And that was both Foweather and the 14 of Ian Giebler. Giebler now caught up in 2 different incidents. He's got to be shaking his head a little bit. He's had some bad luck so far.
Giebler, I think, missed his braking, got in deep, scared Foweather, who then ended up in the inside wall at the bus stop. That's a shame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that breaks up a little bit of battle, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them get back together here a little bit later. Back at the front, Alex Albert lets Mark McCormick, or doesn't challenge Mark McCormick into turn number 1, and actually, I noticed him do a pretty big lift into turn number 1 there. So big picture thinker as always, Alex. He's following McCormick around.
McCormick's looking really smooth, really planted, but maybe not enough to break the toe, because if it's worth, 3/10 on the way to the bus stop, 4/10 from the bus stop down towards turn 1, if you're thereabouts, you're not going to lose touch with the guy in front. You're not going to get shaken. So fastest car that lap was Mark McCormick. Pretty much equal times, though, between him and Albert and Tyler. Bradley Daly losing 5/10 to the leading trio, but critically taking 4/10 away from Justin Hall and Alex Crawford and those. So while this gulf separates between the top 3 and, Justin Hall, Alex Crawford 5th and 6th, Bradley Daly finds himself just still smack bang in the middle of it, losing touch with the top 3, but not being closed by those behind.
His biggest problem is going to be fuel. Just losing out on this draft is really going to impact him unless he can make up some ground and cover that gap. He's really got to be hoping that Jeff and Alex will do him a race, or that Mark will, but it hasn't seemed to materialize so far. Those guys seem to be working really well together up front. A little further down the grid. A little further down the grid, I'm looking at Nicely and Flamian, 691 and 37. Flamian's getting a bit of a run heading down the front straight. And these two have been going back and forth a couple times over the last few laps, but it looks like Flamian just kind of taking the high line. Oh, and he does make a move around the outside. Trying to get these cars slowed down as they make that transition is so tricky. But he's got the better line. Let's see if he can get the run. Oh, he can't get the rear tires to stick. And they're still door-to-door heading down towards this first horseshoe. This is some good stuff.
Yeah, Nicely versus Flamian. It's the double crisscross through the infield at Daytona. Flamian, I think, is going to get that one there because Nicely just couldn't really find the traction off of turn one. And then when they got to go side by side through that S's on the way to the horseshoe, I don't think you can keep it pinned flat out in these cars, how much they weigh, how little grip they've got. And I think Flamian just picked the better line on that one.
I just got to give a little shout out to Nicely's 691 there, painted with the Farmers Only paint job. That's some good stuff. That's got to be one of my favorites out there today.
No doubt, there's plenty of creative liveries for the street stock. Always got to give a shout out to the teams that paint their ChampCar Endurance Series colors onto the iRacing cars. So that goes for the guys of Slower Lower Racing. Seen a few of them out there with their green and white and what appears to be a Cadillac grille. I'm not sure. I think they've stolen it off an Escalade or something. It's big. BMW's jealous. Cody Lammy in the 684 is a good example. Is he battling with... He is battling with Clinton Ford in the 69. So side by side, another Farmers Only versus one of the Slower Lower Racing cars. It's either Batman or a Cadillac grille or both on the nose of the 684.
Delaware. I like it. Yeah. And those two are having a nice little battle. There's a bunch of little battle packs going on kind of all the way through the field. Really kind of that quality racing. Oh, as they actually go past a guy who's stuck in the barrier there. That looks, Rob Craig, who just managed to stuff it into the tires, got into turn number 6 onto the banking there a little bit faster than he probably meant to, and really just got it stuck inside the tires. But for the most part, a pretty clean race. Though we are seeing a little tail forming of people who've had to take an early pit stop. In particular, I've noticed pretty much everyone from about 38th place back has taken a stop, whether that's to repair damage or to replace tires. I guess more of the first the repair damage, than the take tires, but you never know. There might be room for a few different strategies here with the way they're kind of using up the tires today.
And that's typically the idea of the setup for these races is everyone starts with the same amount of fuel that isn't a full tank, such that if you wanted to pit 20 minutes into the race, there's room in the tank to put all of the fuel to get you to the end. You can actually often pit very early and still make the same number of stops as someone who drives to the halfway point of the race or someone who drives as long as the fuel can take them.
Looking back up at the front of the field now, I'm seeing a little bit of separation starting to happen between McCormick, Albert, and Jeff. I'm not sure if this is just being caused by the lap traffic they're coming through, but and it did close down as they went into turn 1 that time. But Mark McCormick's certainly given it a college try to get some separation from these guys.
Oh, that's the name of a Letterkenny episode. He got in a bit deep, locked up. We saw a bit of tyre smoke off him, which we hadn't most of the times we'd seen them. He'd looked far more planted, as I said. And if anything, the gap that was building was a bit more between Albert and Tyler than it was between McCormick and Albert. In the background, 2 cars off. I think one of them was Palermo.
Yeah, that was Palermo in the 12. I didn't catch the other one.
easily done at those horseshoes. Tough braking zones into slow corners, and I think at both of them, you get into the grass, the grass starts to slope away from the track, making it even more difficult to keep slowing the car and then turn it back onto the paved stuff.
Yeah, right away. All glued back together at the front though now, and it's kind of intimidating going through this bus stop. I really look forward to the chance to try it sometime, but it's pretty intimidating to do when you're right glued up behind someone like that. So it's not surprising to see Mark get a huge run out of here, but it is something that Alex has done fairly often, so a little bit surprising to see him give up that much. Luckily, the draft would bring him right back into contention, so he doesn't have to worry too much about that. And just behind them, actually, in fifth and sixth place, Justin Hall and Alex Crawford are actually glued together currently, giving each other a push down the front straightaway. So I'm be interested to see what their lap time looks like here, if they can actually make this work and try and gain some ground on the guys up front. Pretty decent lap last time by, 2:02 flat for Justin, 2:01.8 for Crawford, but not really much for the leaders who are down in the 2:01.6, 2:01.7 kind of range. Jeff Tyler even put in a 2:01.2, but I think he got a whole world of draft to help him out on that one.
Yeah, he hung back a bit, wound up that rubber band, and then, of course, got a really good slipstream to close up, but didn't have to lift out for the corners. Hall too deep into turn one, though. Sees Crawford up into fifth. I don't know if it'll be the case this lap, but the last 3 or 4 laps I've seen, they have been catching Bradley Daly, and he's only 3 seconds up the road from Alex Crawford. And the way the slipstream works here, 3 seconds is really 2 seconds, because if the guy behind gets within 1 second of you, there's a contact between the 74 and Alex Crawford. And again.
Oof. Yeah, that's gotta hurt. Trying to make some hay around the lap traffic there, and Brian Edwards, kind of has it on the inside, can't get it stopped, and tags him once, and then catches him again as he's kind of trying to straighten it out. Ooh, that hurts. Crawford's the guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve. I don't have the chat turned on, but I bet you didn't appreciate that one.
I've got it turned on. Yeah, it's a good thing it doesn't come through on the broadcast, because it was a little less than broadcastable. He's not pleased. On the other hand, we are welcoming to all skill levels and experiences in this league, as in the real ChampCar Endurance Series, where you don't know who you're racing against. It could be someone in their first wheel-to-wheel event. It could be, multiple-time, IMSA racers like Misha Goikberg. It could be anyone of any level of talent or experience. That's why, I guess, the smart of those among us give a little bit of space to everyone.
Yeah, really tough though. I mean, you can't really see that one coming. And you know what? Our leaders are actually getting caught up in some of that lap traffic too. They just made their way past one, but they had a whole group of them there, and you can kind of see them just weaving and dodging as they try to get by. Don't follow along with Crawford then. And he's driving a little red, spins the tires up all the way off that corner. Time to get the red mist back under control. He hasn't lost that much time to Nicely, though he was up with Justin Hall before, so it looks like about an 8-9 second loss after those contacts.
Tell you what, if I was Crawford, I'd be considering, maybe pitting at the end of this lap. You follow me, get new tires on, fix the car up, maybe try to do an undercut on some of these guys. Hey, here's a move for the lead. Alex Albert, maybe he's thinking of pitting at the end of this lap, because he's just gone and shot past. Oh, and massively overshot the bus stop. That's going to be a slowdown penalty for sure. This could be costly for Alex Albert. Attempting the move on Mccormick. Narrow entry to the bus stop, and he's massively, massively overshot the braking. He's dropping back into second place in the slipstream behind Mccormick, so he might have gotten away with cutting that bit rather than the later bit. But he might, as we're about 1 lap, 2 laps away from the halfway point of this race, might start seeing some tactical pit stops for some drivers to get new tires.
Woo! That was a tight move as he made it to the outside line there. I wonder what suddenly put a fire under Alex Albert, because he's really trying to get to the front. I got to think you're right. He wants to be in the lead as they go into the whole pits, and lock up from Mark McCormick, slides it around, inside, outside. Oh my God. This is some great stuff up here.
Side by side again. Albert's got his nose in front, but it's the outside for the horseshoe. Probably want the inside in a car like this. And there's someone off there for good measure as well.
Rob Craig riding around the outside, exploring the more interesting parts of the track.
I'm led to believe that all of the interesting parts of Daytona are within the confines of this circuit. Not to besmirch any of the good people of Daytona Beach, Florida, and their beautiful city that is very, very welcoming. Oh, just a tiny little rub there between McCormick and Albert at the lead. These cars can handle it. They are designed for a little bit of short track oval racing where, you know, a little tap to the bumper here and there is what happens. They can handle that kind of stuff. They can handle a bump draft.
Ooh.
What they can't handle is a big impact. McCormick stays high.
He went high.
Through.
He went high, and he blocked him hard off that corner. But I guess on the oval parts of the track, that's allowed. Alex Albert gets a big draft, though, and manages to stick it this time through the bus stop. And we'll see. I'm interested to see if once he's got a little gap, he decides, you know, hey, let's go do the fresh tire thing, you know?
Yeah, with 2-minute laps, we are 1 lap away from the halfway point in this race, give or take. And
speaking of Alex is making overtakes, I got Alex Crawford making an overtake here on Chris Flamian. Flamian going high likely has a slowdown penalty as he came out of the last corner there, but that was a pretty exciting series of events as nicely Chris and Christopher Flamian both had to sort of make way as that red-misted Crawford made his way past the both of them. We'll see if Flamian makes a challenge here as they come back to the line. Crawford blocks him off. It really shows that the line you kind of need to run here, that really straight line down into turn 1. With these cars, they seem to really like being kind of square as you're on the brakes like that.
yeah, certainly when there's a bit of steering angle, it invokes a lot of body roll, which then would just about halve your braking performance if, you know, there's no weight on the inside tires. You know, a little bit of ABS, a little bit of stiffer, some independent suspension, all things that would help that, all things that this car does not have.
Yeah, absolutely that. And as these cars are getting down, you might be noticing, folks, in the background of some of these shots, just cars off the track, kind of left and right. As these tires wear down, they go away, and you just have nothing left underneath you. And so these guys that are trying to make this work on a one-stop strategy are really starting to feel the pain of these worn-out tires as we get across the halfway point here in this race.
And then you can hit a bit of a cliff with the tires where you wear them a little bit, you start sliding them more, you heat them up more, they wear faster, you're sliding them more, they heat up more, and you know, the runaway effect really can get away with you if you're overdriving the car as the tires wear down. Past the halfway point of this race, keeping our eye on pit in to see who might make a tactical move to go for new tires early.
Yeah, so far none of our leaders have opted in, and you know, to be honest, I'm a little surprised, given that we're seeing about a second to a second and a half of fall off by this point in the race, by the looks of things from sort of the recent laps for these guys. So, you know, we'll see who's going to wink first, who's going to blink, wink, I don't know. Anyway, head to the pits first.
And my eyes ever so briefly trained on pit entry, and no one from your top 10. So strategy is everyone seems to want to go long at the moment.
They just don't have qualified crew chiefs like us in their ear. That's all it is.
No, what they lack is backseat drivers like you and I, telling them how what they're doing is wrong, they need to drive differently, and also what they were thinking for strategy is a bad idea.
And Alex actually, up the front here, Alex Albert has got a couple of cars lined up, and if he manages to play this right, he might get kind of lucky. I'm a little worried for him, though. I have a feeling this next lap is going to hold him up on the way through the bus stop. The right way through is very, very fast, and the wrong way through is all kinds in the way. Looks like Alex Albert kind of got it wrong there that time, though. We'll see if this draft is something he can actually work with.
Now, McCormick and Tyler are going to be side by side. Whoa, Tyler had to give a bit of room for McCormick to come up the yellow line there to avoid a bit of a wreck. So as they came past that traffic, you might have seen second and third change positions. Alex Albert, tires down on the yellow. He was looking for pit in, and then I think he saw the 63 go, and he decided, no, I'll wait. But I think Alex Albert considered going for pit lane that lap, and then decided he didn't want to be on pit in behind some lapped cars. So that could have cost him a bit of time.
On a piece of the puzzle for these guys at the front here is that pit entry, and I saw all three of them doing practice runs at the pit lane during the warm-ups, so it'll be interesting to see who can get the most out of it. A second and a half cushion, though, is a really nice thing to have when you're trying to get the braking zone rate from 150 all the way down to that 55 mile an hour speed limit here.
First of any of the leading cars on pit lane is Simon Foweather, so he hits his pit stall. Oh, no, he overshoots it. That is a costly mistake and an easy mistake to make. A fast pit road speed here and a very slippery concrete apron for the pit area. So Foweather's overshot, then he got his fast repair. He's getting fuel and he is getting tires. You mentioned that eyedropper fuel fill rate means that you can get 4 brand new tires on that car pretty easily covered in the time that it takes to add half an hour of fuel.
Mm-hmm. And as he's sitting on the pit lane, we see the Robinson brothers come by, nose to tail. Those two look like they're having a great time.
Wasn't that the father-son?
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Father-son deal. But it looks like the two of them are having a great time right beside each other on track. Got to talk my dad into buying a racing wheel.
Bought my dad one, he never used it. For shame.
Oh, that hurts. Alex Albert's still got a gap, and McCormick has actually lost a fair amount from Jeff this time by 2. I don't know if Alex just had another gear, was holding back or what, but this formerly close pack at the front is now nice and spread out. 1.5 seconds back to Jeff Tyler, about 4/10 better than the lap before, and 2.9 seconds back to Mark McCormick. I'm not sure exactly how that lost that. I'll do a little bit of investigating for you, I'll tell you.
Albert's going hell for leather right now. He just set a 2:01. His personal best lap. He's pushed it a bit hard into the first horseshoe there, but he's trying to break away from Tyler and McCormick. So I think he's going to be pitting pretty soon. He's going to have to, because by the end of this lap, there's only going to be about 24, maybe 23 minutes left. And if he went a lap longer than that even, we'd really be getting into the last third of the race. The starting fuel starting to run out. You would have to think traffic could be an issue. It's one of the Love Racing cars, it is. But it ends up just out of his way, no problems. 647, who's driving that one?
That's Nicholas Love. He had a wreck early on, had to go and get some pit stop for damage, and seems like he's down on some front or some top speed because of some front end damage too. So having a race to forget, but they can't all be wins, right?
No, they can't all be W's. Big sideways entry into the bus stop again for race leader Alex Albert. He gets a lot of the exit as well, so he is pressing on.
Yeah, and that's about the absolute limit of what you can do on that curb in terms of how much grass he just took there. So he might have gotten away with one a little bit there, just getting the car in exactly the right spot. No move towards pit lane, though. Goes by another lap. These cars are getting great mileage out there today. Crawford, actually, with all of his dramas and fighting off, advances from Chris Nicely and Christopher Fleming, has actually managed to make up a fair amount of ground over the last few laps on Andrew Archer. And Archer actually dives down to the pit lane, so that's another one of our top 6th place driver going to the pit lane. So that's our first real sort of contender taking the pit lane.
And Bradley Daly from 4th, but don't forget Foweather was in the top 10 as well. So if all of them played their strategy good and clever, they could still be there. I'll wait to see where Daly and Archer end up, but Foweather was actually the leading of any cars that had pitted before Daly and Archer pitted.
Kind of a shame that the road course got the extended pit exit speed limit before we got on the track here, because these cars would be a bit of a handful around that pit exit.
Yeah, on cold tires, no less. It's probably good for safety that the pit exit speed limit ends quite a lot later than it used to. But yeah, it maybe takes a little bit of the driving out of it. So,
and as we looked away, go ahead.
35 seconds for Daly, 43 for Archer, 48 for Foweather. So Daly, much shorter, much quicker on the lane.
Just checking back in on the front of the field, Alex Albert's lead of 1.5 seconds has evaporated after a big lockup going into turn number 6. He got the rears locked up, got the car 3 different kinds of sideways, and made it through the corner, but lost every little bit of advantage that he had, and now it looks like he's going for the pit lane. Being very aggressive here, though, relative to Jeff.
3 sorts of sideways would be pitch, bounce, and roll?
Yeah, something like that. It didn't look comfortable, that's for sure. And he did have a pretty slow first sector into the pit lane there, too, so I think he might have come in a little bit hot and had to slow it down to make that timing loop work. Ooh,
Jeff Tyler has massively overshot his box there. Even if his pit stall was Alex Albert's, he would have overshot it too. He's gone 1.5 too deep. Not great news for the 25 of Jeff Tyler. Of course, many other drivers on pit lane now as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing Fleming, I'm seeing Crawford, I'm seeing Jeff Tyler, as well as Alex Albert. So a lot of guys just ran out of fuel this lap. Something I will mention, though, Alex Albert, I saw him in the pre-race practicing that transition from the pit lane to the concrete. What a tryhard, right? But it makes a big difference, that different surface, and he seems to have gotten it right.
Well, this is interesting. 43 seconds of fuel for Alex Albert, place 35 for Bradley Daly, if I have that number correct. Oh, I'm starting to wonder if that number is entirely true. But from Jeff Tyler missing his pit stall, you can see how much that has cost him. A good 2, 3, maybe 4 seconds.
So to speculate wildly, Bradley Daly did run that entire first stint without a draft, and so you'd think he'd need more fuel, but he might also have a better sense of how much fuel a solo car was burning than these guys who are running in the draft the whole time do. So he might be able to make a more accurate fuel number here for the second half of the race. The last third of the race at this point. Who knows, though? Either way, it's
time. I believe that's what. Oh my gosh, who was that?
I think that's how it goes. Bradley Daly.
Cher?
I have no idea.
Was it Enya?
You've gone completely off in the weeds for me, Haynes.
I thought that was your music.
I got Shania Twain. What do you want?
Someone to impress me?
Anyway, back to the race. Bradley Daly came out of the pits after that 35-second of fuel stop, and that has put him going into 3 right now, while Jeff Tyler's heading out of 4. So kind of hard to say how well that's paid off for him exactly, because he did have a fairly large gap before. Let's see how it shakes out as they cross the line this time. Interestingly enough, McCormick's still out there, still lapping, so managed to save just a massive amount of fuel somehow. Same goes for Justin Hall.
Maybe some of the other pit stops we've seen are a little more driven by the state of the tires than the state of the fuel gauge. I mean, if you've got to make a stop at some point in the race and the tires wear down a lot, you might as well make that pit stop a bit closer to the halfway point. Oh no, the traffic for McCormick. Who's that in the 13 spinning in front of him?
Sofianek.
Oh dear.
Putting the moves on Palermo, but it takes a very interesting re-entry there. Wouldn't recommend that one. But struggling for sure on the way through the bus stop, and really easy to just get the thing, spinning on you like that, because it just wants to bounce all the time.
Well, McCormick is going to go another one. DJ Khaled. That's interesting. It's very, very interesting to see. I mean, Justin Hall is not going to follow him on that one. Hall goes for pit lane. So now there's only a very, very few drivers out there who haven't made a pit stop. Of those who have, Albert ahead of Tyler, ahead of Daly, ahead of Andrew Archer.
Giebler down the pit lane too. We got Justin Hall on the lane. Lots of contenders here. These guys need to get a memo about the fast lane. Ooh, overshoots the box though. Easy enough to do, and we got Alex Albert coming down, making a move on the 161 of Charles Kowalczyk there, a lapper, but making a move nonetheless into turn 1.
Someone must have spilt some fuel or something in all of the pit boxes and then had to put down the dust in all of the pit boxes, because they are slippery as anything. Pit road speed here is 55 miles an hour or something. You do come from a bit of speed into your pit box, but nothing as crazy as the deceleration racing speeds down into turn 1 or something, for example.
Yeah, 55 miles an hour is pretty quick. Pretty hard to get yourself stopped. So after 2 laps after the pit stop, Alex Albert runs a 2.0361. Very fast lap. Fastest of the race, as compared to Mark McCormick's 202.8. So you got to think that the undercut is kind of working here for Alex. Despite that, he pitted at the same time as Jeff Tyler, and Jeff Tyler had that issue getting into the lane, 3.5 seconds behind Alex Albert at this point. So it has paid off. It's given him a gap, and McCormick has entered the pits, presumably seeing that differential in lap time.
Well, that was a good...
it was almost coherent.
Entry into the box for McCormick. Right side tires change, and then the left side tires. Fuel presumably still going in. If this is a good stop from McCormick, he'll be right with Alex Albert. If he needs a bit more fuel, or if those quick laps on the new tires from Albert were really effective, then McCormick could still be 4 or 5 seconds behind.
McCormick's moving though already. Done.
Yeah, long pit exit though.
Alex is heading into turn 1, Jeff 2. Getting to the cones. This is going to be a race close down at the first horseshoe.
Yeah, McCormick's getting up to speed, taking that pit exit. He's going to be in the lead.
33.7 second stop, 10 seconds shorter in the box than Alex Albert was. And I did see Alex have to back up a little bit. A lot less than Jeff Tyler, but a little bit nonetheless.
Now, if you have to back up any further than Jeff Tyler did, you get black flagged for going backwards on pit lane.
Not wrong. Not wrong. Cold tires, though, for Mark McCormick. Let's see if he can get this car around the track cleanly. He's got one race win. He's leading with 10 minutes to go. 13 minutes to go.
Well, we're not going to race all the way into the night, but get those fireworks ready, because I'm seeing Albert 1.5 seconds behind McCormick, and then Tyler 2 seconds behind that. Albert needs to find half a second to get in that slipstream to make a battle for this at the lead in the final stint. And if he can force McCormick to have to drive hard, maybe he can force McCormick into burning a little bit more fuel than he accounted for.
A little bit closer battle in the top 5 right now. Bradley Daly and Justin Hall are side by side, heading through NASCAR 1 and 2. Daly was actually leading Hall and as they got into the second horseshoe, but Hall got a much better run onto the banking than Bradley did. And they're sort of side drafting back and forth as we head down the back straight here. It looks like Daly's going to lift out and let Justin have the spot. I wonder if Daly needs to save a little bit of fuel, because he also had about a 34-second stop. Sort of similar to what Mark McCormick did. So we might be in a position where we see a couple of these guys have to make some fuel to make it to the end of the race.
Yeah, Bradley Daly with the Wynham Dynam Racing logos on his street stock. Justin Hall not representing the team or anything, except he does have his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pajamas and helmet on.
Very nice. We've been informed by the production booth that those are Miami Dolphins colors, but I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles better interpretation.
You and I, Devin, are a long way away from Miami.
Tell me about it.
You're a long way away from anything, and I guess the same can probably be said of me in some context. I'm closer to a racetrack than you are, though.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Jeff Tyler making his way around some lap traffic. He's about another 2 seconds, 2 seconds behind Alex Albert in all of this. So closing up, but still a long ways off. And yeah, that battle up at the front's kind of gotten broken up. We'll see if it gets back together before the end here. Daly and Hall.
McCormick's been leaving Alex Albert in his dust here. You know, it's gone from being 1.5 seconds to being sort of 2.5 seconds. Albert driving the wheels off the thing. Tyler did get through the traffic pretty easily, got a little bit of a slipstream. Now he's 1.1 seconds behind Albert. Surely the kind of speeds they're doing on the banking here, the tow can be worth something 1.5 seconds behind, not just 1 second back. I don't know.
I'll have to see. Mark McCormick does have a few more lappers up ahead of him. He might be able to get a little bit of draft out of them. He might get a little held up by them too as they head into turn 1. Tense moments here for the lead.
Yeah, 10 minutes to go, but they've already crossed the start-finish line. That means we're going to have 6 more laps in this one, and that's still quite a lot of racing.
Just to check back in a little further down the field, Simon Foweather, our first taker of the top 10 for the pit lane. He's currently racing in ninth place with Christopher Flamian right behind him in another one of those huge-ass blue and yellow cars. Those two will be a tight battle till the end, it looks like, barring any tragedy. And Clinton Ford, who you mentioned a little bit earlier in the race, has managed to get things sort of patched back up, running unlucky 13th. They're probably feeling pretty good about it considering that little issue they had earlier in the race. John Sirota in the number 3 car, running a tribute livery and having a pretty quiet race himself, up a position. He and Tim Wire have somehow managed to avoid all coverage in the race, despite doing a pretty good job. The two of them running 11th and 12th, and very consistent so far.
We've even avoided saying that I think Gene Sirota has been through the lane twice. in 12th place there, has he not? Has he served a drive-through penalty at some point?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm getting the same notes as you though. It says 7.6 seconds in the lane.
That's too short. It's way too short for a drive-through. What's going on there?
I wonder if, I don't know how you do that. But anyway,
it was 18 laps ago.
Top rated Canadian. I'll have to find out what a secret is.
Extra maple syrup.
Put it in the gas tank. Another name that's been kind of quiet until fairly recently in the race is Andrew Archer, but he's about to find himself in the middle of a pretty interesting sandwich. He's following Bradley Daly pretty closely, and the two of them have been going back and forth a little bit. But he's also got Alex Crawford, who's been kind of tracking them down, running a very similar pace to the two of them ahead, albeit maybe a tenth or two faster, and trying to make up some ground too. So there's a lot of interesting battles that are setting up here.
I went and I looked at Gene Sirota, and you know what? It's what I thought it was. To spend 7 seconds in the pit lane, he spun on the way towards turn 1, gone to the inside of the barrier separating turn 1 and the pit lane, and that is how it says he spent 7 seconds in the pit lane for a second time. He's actually just spun through the exit.
Beautiful. That's
like, surely that's what he's done. How is it counted as 7 seconds in the pit lane when it would take you a minute to drive all the way through it? And
just ahead of him, Christopher Flamian making a move on Tim Wire. And gets it done cleanly into turn 1. Very well done there.
Oh, bit of contact back there. And Wire gets a little bit into the side of Flamian. Flamian goes halfway around, gets pointed the right way once again. Bit of biff and barge and back and forth there.
Yeah, no love lost. And I'm getting word, while we were making jokes about maple syrup, it sounds like Chris Flamian and Sirota had a little bit of an earlier incident where...
Was it faux weather and Wire?
Faux weather and Wire, okay. But where Wire ended up facing the wrong way anyway. And this packs all back together again, and some hard feelings in a few minutes left. Checking back in on the front, they've got a fair amount of lap traffic to get through in the next lap or so here. I'm seeing about 3 different cars: Danny Robinson, Corey Hunter, and Ryan Gersmer. Local favorite, locks it up, unfortunately. Oh, and the 62 goes around as well. Oh boy, this is not what you want to see when you're the leader, trying to maintain a gap, and Alex Albert's right back up on that rear bumper. And they're about to go too wide through the kink with Danny Robinson. Alex Albert makes a move up the inside, and things are all kinds of sketchy on the outside there. And let's see if this 945 car can get it slowed down. He does. And Alex Albert's managed to make a move through all of that with Mark Mccormick now behind him. And Mccormick has already tasted victory in this league. He wants to have another.
Danger, Danny Robinson. Really checked up McCormick there. Alex Albert smelt blood in the water. Somehow they went 3 wide without everyone ending in calamity. And with 5 minutes left, a lead change, Alex Albert to the front. For some of these guys who went shorter on the fuel, it's going to be tough because they're going to start the final lap with just about 10 seconds left on the clock or something. If they were just a little bit slower, this race would have been a lap shorter. But the pace they've done will force them into 1 extra lap. And that could be a problem for people like Bradley Daly, potentially a problem for Mark McCormick. We don't know, purely speculative there, but
fuel could be an issue, absolutely. And you know what, I've actually noticed while we were watching Mark McCormick and Alex Albert have their little drama, Daly had one of his own, locked it up into turn 1 and ran real wide, gave the spot to Andrew Archer, so now he's dropped outside of the top 5, running 6th, and probably desperately looks like trying to get up to the bumper of Andrew Archer ahead of him, too wide for the lead.
Yeah, indeed, with a bit of traffic in front, Albert really locks it up, slides it in. He's trying to get around 197.
That's Donovan Bort.
Yep.
Staying there on the inside. You see these guys giving them a wide berth. Always healthy thing to do.
Yeah, they're a bit of a boat and they need a wide berth. These street stocks. The 2 leaders through without much fanfare there. The gap between them stayed at about a car length, maybe 2 car lengths. It's all going to come down to, I think, the banking on the final lap, really.
And lurking just behind them, Jeff Tyler did make up about 0.4 of a second. Oh, and makes contact with Bort, but somehow manages to do it in a way that he gets away with. And now he's 1.63 seconds behind as they head onto the banking. And if he gets a little bit lucky with the draft, he could be in this for the last lap.
Got a little bit of short track stuff there from Jeff Tyler, trying to move the traffic as he can.
Looked back at that battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, and Bradley Daly's given up another spot now to Alex Crawford, who's got his sight sets on Andrew Archer ahead. Ooh, I'll keep an eye on this battle back here. You get the one at the front, okay?
Yeah, fair enough. On my timing screen, I've got red boxes around any cars that are battling within 1 second. After about an hour in this race, still about half of the field are inside the red boxes, and most critically, our 2 up front, where Albert is going to keep it down on the short run with the double yellow line and the apron, but McCormick up high, he's got plenty of speed, and they cross the line near identically. 2 laps to go. Albert down the inside, he's been a bit weak there, he's been crossed over underneath before. McCormick is going to try to get a better run off turn 1. Then Albert's still going to have the inside for the first horseshoe. It's not the last lap yet. These 2 are racing like it is. 39, careful with your rejoin. He is going to stay off the track. All right, Alex Albert just about holds on to the lead.
Crawford's making a move around the outside of Andrew Archer into turn 1 this time. Oh, and he doesn't quite get it alongside. Archer does a much better job getting it stopped and manages to hold the apex. Crawford, though, fierce competitor, really loves a good overtake. Looking outside this time into the first horseshoe and pinching Archer down as they head into the churn.
Yeah, Crawford's had big pace. He's got tyres that are a lap newer than Archer as well. Just 1 lap, you say, but it's a big lap here, and these are cars that wear down those tyres.
Lots of smoke ahead. That's a lapper, looks like, going around the wrong way. Nicholas Love, still having a hard race. Bradley Daly, though, still watching as Andrew Archer and Crawford continue on.
Under a minute left on the timer, but they're going to get to the start-finish line before it runs out to give us 1 more lap of Daytona. Good run through the bus stop for your leader, Albert. But Tyler, player 3, has entered, and he is right up with McCormick now.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if McCormick has realized the fuel is the problem. We'll have to see. Archer going
He's going to get shown the
straight.
white flag this time, and that's when he might know if he's in trouble or not. Yeah, big lift from McCormick. Tyler is going to dive through into 2nd place, and McCormick has led many laps. Looks like he has to soft pedal this one home for 1 last tour of Daytona International Speedway road course. Alex Albert leads 1.1 seconds. Jeff Tyler through into 2nd place. Mark McCormick, well, he's got 20 seconds behind into Justin Hall, a podium almost guaranteed. It seems like McCormick doesn't have the fuel left in the tank to fight for 1 more lap.
Crawford making another move around the outside. He had Archer at the line that time, but Archer gets that really good run into turn 1. Again, stops it, and they make contact on the apex of 1. Alex Crawford pushes Archer wide, and now contact again as they're heading through the S's. Crawford, 2 wheels out on the grass. He's going to have to get sucked back up if they want to resolve that before the line again.
Oh, he's driving like he doesn't have to pay for the panel beating today, Alex Crawford. He has been a source of excitement in the top 10, and a source of excitement is that lap down car that's just come back onto the track around these 2. Top 3 are looking pretty settled in on this last lap. They weren't for the last 10 minutes or so. This is our best battle in the top 10 between Archer and Crawford. Crawford will send it at any opportunity, I feel.
He did beat Archer to the line last time by, so I wonder if he's sort of planning that sort of move again. Hasn't been able to get around him into turn 1, that's for sure. Won't have to, though.
Well, he's navigated the bus stop, and it is just foot to the floor to get to the checkered flag for Alex Albert. The pole sitter didn't have it that easy, and he is going to win round 3. His first win of the season for the defending champion, Alex Albert. Devin, what do you see between Archer and Crawford?
I got Jeff Tyler right in behind Alex Albert, and Mccormick making his way, Justin Hall as well. Crawford and Archer are have swapped positions.
Crawford got him at the bus stop there, and then he's got a bit of a draft too, so I think that's 5th place for Alex Crawford.
I'm getting the sense that Archer might have been a little bit low on fuel, because he kind of gave that spot away as they headed into the bus stop that time.
Charles Kowalczyk in the 161 looks low on fuel as well, as he coughs and splutters his way on the apron to the checkered flag. I don't know if he's really given up a whole lot of positions there.
Giebler coming across the line in 8th place. Flamian has managed to get some separation from Wire, and he'll be rounding out the top 10.
It's fuel problems for Daly as well. He's lost positions to Foweather and Flamian. Now Wire is around. Now, for everyone else on the lead lap is going to get him. Bradley Daly has got nothing left. He's going to have to tow. That's a shame for Bradley Daly, who ran in 4th place for so long. Looked really good.
That really, really hurts. And he had some success in the points already, and so, yeah, that one's going to be a real bummer for him. Troy Isdorf coming around the front straight, riding that beautiful yellow and black car to the line. And another car running low on fuel. That's Kyle Guillory, who's stalled it out all but on the turn. Let Shane Cameron by. Shane Cameron started 45th, up, 29 spots to 16th place? 15th place? Great day for him. 13th place, wow. Benefiting from some of those fuel-starved drivers. And Chris Nicely actually makes a nice pass at the line for 15th place on Brandon Reeves there, too. And all sorts of great carnage after the start-finish. That was a good one.
I mean, non-stop start to finish. That was so much action on the final lap, with cars running out of fuel, with some great passes made as well. Your heart breaks for some of these guys like Daly, like Guillory. Raced so well, raced cleanly in a car that is very difficult to wrangle around a road course. Really long braking distances, incredibly unsophisticated suspension and tires, and they did a good job to keep it clean, but in the end it was their strategy and the amount of fuel in the can that undid them.
Props to Guillory. I was going to say, props to Guillory, who's still rolling down the pit lane, making it to the start-finish line after running out of fuel about a minute and a half ago. I think he might actually make up some spots by this little maneuver here.
Alex Albert is going to show that there's plenty left for him as he leaves a big smoke screen for Barney in the flaggers stand and all of his fans, all of Alex Albert's fans in the stands today. Wow, what a race for round 3 of ChampCar iRacing Series from Daytona. But your winner from pole position, the champ, is back. Alex Albert on the top step. Jeff Tyler in second, and Mark McCormick ran out of fight at the end, but paced his fuel to still get some critical points from a 3rd place finish. Justin Hall got 4th. Crawford fighting his way back to 5th on the last lap. Saw Andrew Archer finish in 6th. He's no Emirates Team New Zealand, no win for him today on the world stage. Ian Giebler in 7th, Simon Foweather in 8th with his early pit stop, Chris Flamion in 9th, and the top 10 are rounded out by Tim Weyer. Clinton Ford, man named after two 20th century US presidents, in 11th, Troy Isidore in 12th, Shane Cameron 13th, the biggest mover of the race, 32 positions gained in an hour. He should probably qualify going forward, but I'll celebrate that achievement. And then Safia 14th, Knisley 15th, Reeves in 16th, Andrew Kosick scored 17th, Bradley Daly scored 18th, Kyle Guillory, by virtue of kind of being on the lead lap when he ran out of fuel, is still going to be scored 19th, and 20th place, and officially a lap down, was Aaron Thorpe. You got the rest of them for us there, Devin?
Yeah, absolutely. 21st place, Mark Kruger and Charles Kowalczyk. 23rd is Sean Sprucha. 24th, Tim Tran. 25th and 26th, Tyler Robinson and John Sirota, tragically falling down the order after those issues that we watched. 27th, Keith Carlson. 28th, Kevin Robinson. 29th, David Palermo. 30th, Neil Hancock. Scott Grinnell in 31st, Jonathan Patterson in 32nd. 33rd goes to Ed Emmett, 34th, Danny Robinson, 35th, Corey Hunter, Ben Moody in 36th, Cody Lamy in 37th, Greg Platt, 38th, Greg Vandevert, 39th, Jared Cubitt in 40th, Nicholas Love, tough race for him, 41st, Ryan Gersmer, 42nd, Donovan Bort, 43rd, Rob Craig, 44th, and Brian Edwards in 45th.
Well, they are lined up in order to get into the commentary booth here. We've got our top 3 finishers. And in 3rd place was Mark McCormick. Really strong showing in all the races we've seen you so far this season. Great pace today, but was it the strategy that was kind of your undoing?
Yeah, and traffic. But yeah, the strategy on the fuel, I thought I had it planned out. Our practice race went 29 laps, but somehow this one went 30. So, I had to lift and coast for the last lap and go ahead and let those guys go.
What about this street stock? First race in it this season. We've gone on and on about its peculiar traits, but from winning in the Jetta last round to driving a very, very different car this round, what stands out like a sore thumb between the two?
Well, the Jetta turns in 2 directions the same, and this car turns right wildly different than left. So it took some getting used to. All cars that I haven't driven before, so I don't know, it's different.
Good different, bad different, indifferent different?
No comment, different.
Okay, fair enough. But you do take some good points. A 3rd place, and of course, some learnings with this car that is going to feature in more rounds later in the year. Are we gonna see a more polished McCormick for later rounds that can stand on the top step in this car, not just in the Jetta?
Man, I hope so. This thing's kind of hard to get a handle on. Fixed setups, there's really only so much you can do. Practice in different conditions. Make sure you hit the practice round. Hopefully I get better in this car. I'm obviously weaker in it than others.
Silver lining on it, though, is it's points and it counts as a completed race. In 2 ways, it's closer to you potentially winning one of our 2 prizes on offer. What most motivates you to race in the ChampCar iRacing series?
I want to get out of the rig, get into the in-car rig. I'm trying to get that prize and do a race next year,
Well, I think today's performance has shown that you are definitely one of this season's championship contenders. I wish you the best of luck and hope we see you again for future rounds. Do you have any final thanks, final thoughts, parting words from today's racing at Daytona?
Yeah, with the car being different to me, I'm happy to be on the podium, get some points like you said, and it's early on. Just happy to be up here with these guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Well, second place man, Jeff Tyler, is with Devin Peters.
Hey there, Jeff. Exciting race up at the front for the first half there, but it looked like you got a little bit unlucky when it came time for the pit stop.
Hey guys, yeah, it was a great time. I kind of missed my braking point going into my my pit stall. It slid a little too far, so I had to back up and hopefully I didn't run over any of Alex's pit crew. But then just unchecked the fuel box once Alex took off and tried to stick with him.
Yeah, it looked like a solid race for the most part. I guess had some pretty exciting battling there. Did you think that you had anything for Mark before he suddenly had to lift on the last lap there?
I was just trying to get within draft range of those two. At one point, I was about, I think, 2.5 or 2.8 seconds behind Alex and Mark, and I just slowly was chipping away at it, and I got to like within 1.4, 1.3 seconds, but I ran out of time. So I think, maybe one more lap could have got the job done for the win. But I'm real happy to get P2. That's still a good result with, against those guys. So yeah, congrats to Alex and congrats to Mark on the podium.
Well, congratulations to you, man. That was a solid first showing. Are you planning to make any other rounds this season?
Yeah, I hope so. I'll do my best. I don't know if they'll all fit with my schedule, but yeah, I hope to be here. And thanks to ChampCar for putting this on. It was a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations again, and thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Well, that means we've got one last person to bring in, and that's today's race winner. If you looked at the result sheet, you went from pole to the race win. Did it seem that simple for 60 minutes?
No, but you forgot to mention also fastest lap. But no, it definitely wasn't. It was a tough race out there this week with Mark and Jeff. Really, we battled for the whole hour. Traffic made it tough at times, and with a little bit different pit strategies, us pitting a little bit earlier than Mark, it was pretty interesting to see how it all worked out.
Yourself and some other drivers included, I think, went quite deep into the race. Mccormick, noticeably 3 laps longer than you. Was it strategy? Is the strategy in this car more driven by the tires than by the fuel?
Yeah, I didn't really realize we were that deep into the race until I think it was 2 laps in a row. I made a mistake in the same corner, and I decided it must be the tires. It couldn't be my driving. So took a look, noticed that we were, maybe 3 or 4 laps from as far as we could go. So thought, since we're already past halfway, might as well dive in, get some fresh tires, and see if I can make something happen. I got to say, though, I was a little bit worried with Mark staying out and him having those fresh tires after I had already burnt the grate off of mine. I was just down to the good, and I knew he was going to have 2 or 3 laps there with great traction, and he almost took advantage of it. I thought he was going to get away from me, but I guess it was just a combination of the traffic and the fuel mileage just didn't work out.
Bit cozy in your pit stall. Jeff Tyler decided he wanted to share it with you. We discussed this before the race. It looked like not just difficult getting from racing speed to pit lane speed, but difficult in this car to get from pit lane speed to stopped in the box.
Yeah, I think that iRacing may have changed the compounded pads that we're using. We used to, I feel like, have more stopping power. It's not so bad on the racetrack. You kind of adapt, maybe it's another 10, 20 feet into a braking zone, maybe a little lift and coast. But in the pits from 55 miles an hour, I seem to recall being able to pit from about 50 meters from the board when the crew chief's counting me in. And, if I was braking there today, I was going at least a car length through. So not too long after I heard that we were 100 meters out, started slowing down and just tried to, hit the marks perfectly. Made that mistake in the practice race and tried to learn from it. Warned my buddy Jeff, but, there's no lesson to learn like the one you can learn yourself.
Yeah, indeed. A win means that we've had 3 different winners from 3 races very early to start counting, when we haven't had 4 races and there's 4 drop rounds. But in theory, there's 3 drivers with an equal best result at this time in the championship from 3 different cars. Anyone is going to have their work cut out to be in the top 5 championship-wise at the end of this one, it would seem.
Yeah, for sure. Just taking a little look at the points, it looks like Ian's leading right now. Justin's up there. We know he's going to be quick. Mark showed a lot of speed this year. If Jeff makes it out some more, we know Jeff can be quick. So, yeah, I expect it to be a tough season. Look forward to the good competition. Still got a long way to go and a lot of tracks to hit, a lot of variety of cars. So we've seen each of them one time now. So everyone knows what we're getting into, and should be a very exciting season. I'm especially looking forward to these street stock rounds. As you know, it's my favorite of all the cars we use.
If someone's watching on the sidelines at this point in the championship, 3 races done, why should they get involved?
You need to get involved next week. That way you have a drop week when your wife wants you to take her on vacation in the summer. No, but seriously, this is a great series. It's I think if you talk to any of the guys that compete, they would say the same thing. It seems that we're growing every year. And if you get entered in 12 of the races this season, your name will be put into a drawing to win a full race entry to a ChampCar endurance series event. And, that could be used to race somewhere just like Daytona. So I was able to use one of my prizes I won one time through the series to get hooked up with a team down in Daytona and race, and had a lot of fun. So you too can do that. All you got to do is join us for 12 of the 13 remaining rounds, get your name in that hat, and hopefully get drawn at the beginning of next season.
You're really just going to flex on me that you've been able to claim your 2019 prize and I haven't?
It's nothing personal, mate.
You can give me a no comment just like Mark McCormick did. That is all fine. Well, Alex, I don't want to show too much favoritism, but it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And, I think it's good to see that there's a couple new drivers to the series, making you sweat a little bit more than seasons gone by.
Oh yeah, for sure. That I've always tried to encourage to get the strongest competition we can. I don't want to walk away with one of these. I want to fight for it all the way to the end. And so, yeah, if there's anyone out there that thinks I'm slow, then I invite you to come out next round and take the fight to me and Mark and the other guys at the front of the pack and see where you stack up.
Fighting words from our back-to-back defending champion. Thanks for coming to have a chat with us, Alex. We'll see you next round at Road America.
All right, yeah, and just real quick, I wanted to give a shout-out to my dad. Tomorrow's his birthday. He's been a big supporter of the team, big influence in me being such a motorsports guy. So happy birthday in just a couple hours, Dad.
Happy birthday, Dad. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
And Devin, that is all of our coverage here on HJBC of the ChampCar iRacing Series, round 3 at Daytona in the street stock. We'll be back later in the month, the 31st at Road America. If you want to race with us, head to forum.champcar.org. All of the information is right up the top in the iRacing section. All of the rules, how to enter, all of the schedule, and of course, the details of the 2 very, very tempting very valuable prizes that we are going to be giving away at the end of this 2021 season. Total value, $3,000 US, split between our points champion and a lucky season-long participant. With the big grids we've had for the 3 races so far, there are many, many drivers well on their way to that. But as has been stressed by Alex, not too late to join. You've only got to do 12 of the remaining 13 races in this year, and you are just as likely as anyone else to get that prize that could see you driving real endurance racing wheel to wheel in the Champ Car Endurance Series. From all of us here at HJBC, it's been a delight covering this round like we are going to for every remaining round of the championship. Subscribe here on YouTube and also on HJBC this Friday. Special event, the HJ Hockenheim GT Challenge. That's going to be a bit of a change of pace from the Champ Car iRacing Series, but it's going to be just as exciting. Join us for that one as well. But from me, David Haynes, Devin Peters alongside me, Michael Derby producing. Thank you for tuning in from Daytona. We'll see you at Hockenheim on Friday and at Road America March 31st.